Types of cells. For the objective, at the end of this lesson, the students would be able to identify the different types of cells. Actually, this is going to be a very simple subtopic. Right. This lesson would also take into account your knowledge about life processes and living things. And if you also watch our first lesson, it's going to be good as far as this lesson is concerned. Okay. So let's start. I want us to start our journey of the types of cells by looking at nucleus. Cells are made up of functional structures called organelles, and among the organelles is nucleus. So it means apart from nucleus, there are other organelles like mitochondrion, chloroplast, etc. So let us look at what the nucleus is, because of all the organelles, that is what we are interested in for this particular subtopic. So as you see this image, that part which has been circled shows the nucleus, the dark spot within. And in our first lesson on this series of lessons on cells, I illustrated it with the onion as observed under the microscope, right? So that is the nucleus. Let's note that nucleus is very important to every cell because it controls the activities of the cell. So we are talking about metabolism, growth, reproduction. So it makes nucleus very, very important to every cell. Now, we are going to use nucleus to differentiate the types of cells that we have. So types of cells. But let's start by looking at their names first. We have eukaryotes, prokaryotes, then we have akaryotes. There are some images here that we are going to use to distinguish them. This is showing the cell of eukaryote. And I said that to distinguish these types of cells, the focus is going to be on the nucleus. So look at this in this image. Our nucleus is here, centrally placed here. Right. Now when you observe this nucleus, you see some materials in it. We call them genetic materials. In the case of eukaryotes, these genetic materials are surrounded by what we call membrane. So we see a membrane surrounding the genetic material. And because of that, we refer to it as having membrane-bound nucleus. And of course, it also has cytoplasm. Good. Now let's look at the prokaryote and make a quick comparison here. When you see this, something clearly catches your eye. You would observe that in the case of the eukaryotes, there is a membrane surrounding the genetic materials. But when you come to prokaryotes, you don't find a membrane surrounding the genetic material. So although they have the genetic materials, but there is no membrane surrounding these genetic materials. So we say that they do not have membrane-bound nucleus. But yes, they also have cytoplasm, just as eukaryotes have. So the main difference here has got to do with the eukaryotes having membrane-bound nucleus, the prokaryotes having no membrane-bound nucleus. Then finally, we look at the akaryotes. Yes, comparatively, with the case of the akaryotes, there is no nucleus at all. And there are no complete genetic materials that we can refer to as chromosomes in their case. So nucleus is absent. And apart from that too, in most of eukaryotes, there is no cytoplasm. So that is very simple. Eukaryotes have membrane-bound nucleus and they also have cytoplasm. Although I'm saying the focus is on the nucleus. And prokaryotes do not have membrane-bound nucleus. They have the genetic materials, alright, the full genetic materials, but they do not have membranes surrounding them. But in the case of eukaryotes, there is no nucleus. And in most of the eukaryotes, there is no cytoplasm. So now we look at examples of organisms with these types of cells. Eukaryotes include plants, animals, and fungi. And for prokaryotes, they include bacteria. So for my students, when I want them to remember prokaryotes, I ask them to keep the name bacteria. Although bacteria are not the only existing prokaryotes, there are others. But that is a way of helping you to easily remember. Okay. And then eukaryotes include viruses. So also, I make my students keep viruses to remember eukaryotes easily. Good. So this is what we have for our lesson today. We have looked at the types of cells. Right. And there is this simple question that I would like you to answer. State one major difference between eukaryotes and prokaryotes. Okay, so that brings us to the end of this lesson. In our subsequent lessons, we are going to pick the types of cells and handle them one after the other. So we'll start with eukaryotes. So our next lesson is going to talk about eukaryotes. So let's meet and discuss what eukaryotes are.